You haven't really lived until a police cruiser idly watches you zip tie a 5-pound roll of red duct tape to the cervical vertebrae of a 12-foot plastic skeleton while your neighbor stares through her blinds like a shark smelling blood and the thermometer reads 38 degrees. Mine was a masterpiece of suburban absurdity and poor judgment, and I was the proud, shivering artist, flannel pants tucked into unlaced Timberlands, fingers numb, trying to make Bonesy dignified. The cop rolled down his window, sighed the kind of sigh that says, "I want to be solving murders," and the holiday war officially began. 3 weeks before Halloween had bowed out and left a cardboard trash can pilgrim hat nailed clumsily on a plastic skull. I'd bought Bonesy for the simple thrill of being someone's neighbor who went a shade overboard, fog machine purple uplights blinking LCD eyes, and for a month I was king of the block. Kids stopped on bikes. People pulled over for selfies. Then November 1st arrives and taped to my front door, resume paper, and all was a summons. Remove this monstrosity by noon. Several neighbors are concerned about property values. Translation: Janice Higgins had spoken. Janice was the kind of neighbor with a perfectly manicured lawn and binoculars. She left her note like a declaration of war. I read the HOA covenant binder over Coffee Clause 8.0, allowed festive decorations within a 30-day window before the holiday. Technically, Thanksgiving counted. Technically, I had rights. Practically, I had a delicious spark of spite. If she wanted tasteful, quiet beige suburbia, I would give her cornucopia chaos. So I called Big Tony, the contractor, who looks like he eats rebar for breakfast, and we poured concrete footings. Bonesy was now permanent anchored, bolted, impossible to drag away without a backhoe and a midlife crisis. I rebranded him Pilgrim Bonesy trash can hat, hot-glued tunic, wicker cornucopia wired to his hand. I dressed a skeleton for Thanksgiving like a man staging a protest with felt and industrial adhesive. She screamed at the porch. The cop came by, Officer Miller, who preferred speeding tickets to aesthetic disputes, and the neighborhood reacted, the morning joggers double-taking a bottleneck of phones by my driveway. Thanksgiving turned into an audience. Janice's shocked indignation was delicious theater. The runners and toddlers loved it. When the HOA emailed me a violation, I replied with a photograph: Pilgrim Bonesy, dawn behind him, shadow long, very on brand. Happy Thanksgiving, I wrote. The war escalated, and it was gloriously petty. That petty energy required production values. Tony poured more concrete. I sewed a Santa suit in a fabric store that looked like a floral maze designed to shame single men. I hired Steve, the electrician, to run LEDs and a pulsating spotlight through Bonesy's ribs, pulsing red like a heartbeat, and hooked up a deep, pitch-shifted ho-ho-ho that rattled window panes. When Janice called the cops to report that the skeleton is threatening me, Miller politely told me to turn the volume down and tilt the spotlight away from her bedroom window. I complied, but I also changed Bonesy's eye color to green envy money the Grinch and winked at the night. The second act was me ratcheting up, Janice adapting, and then the twist. One cold night, my Ring camera captured a stealthy figure in plaid slippers flinging rolls of toilet paper like some low-rent gorilla. It wasn't a teenager. It was Bob, Janice's husband, the mild-mannered Camry guy who always looked like a man exhausted by placemats. He taped Bonesy in the night, did a sad little fist pump, and shuffled back to his porch. The enemy had a secret weapon: respect. I left the TP and spray-painted it pink. Now it was texture art, obviously. That small betrayal, Bob's mischievousness, twisted the narrative. Janice hadn't been a lone crusader. Her household had fissures. Bob's tiny acts of rebellion made him a character I could root for. Allies appeared in odd places, a running crowd that slowed for selfies. Officer Miller, who admitted his kid loved Bonesy and asked for a photo. Local kids who found the whole thing hilarious. The community began to choose sides, not because of ideology, but because Bonesy was now a shared spectacle. HOA meeting day arrived like a cliffhanger. Janice trotted out glossy photos: Exhibit A, turkey waddle; Exhibit B, Santa with a body bag sack; Exhibit C, radioactive green aftermath. She petitioned for removal. I brought a binder of bylaws, Instagram posts, and the technicality that Bonesy was now a permanently anchored installation statuary, not seasonal decor. The vote was a tie, and the president cast the deciding ballot in my favor. I kind of like the Santa one, he admitted, and in a blink the motion to remove failed. I walked home without gloating. Victory felt odd when it meant the woman across the property line looked defeated. Then Janice went quiet. The silent treatment is worse than shouting. It's the slow erosion of attention that had fueled me. April was a lull. I missed the calls, the cop visits, the adrenaline. Tony told me to take the win and shut up. I couldn't. The thing about pettiness is that it asks for maintenance. I upgraded Bonesy for every holiday pilgrim, Santa ski dude, Cupid in a diaper, even a mariachi for Cinco de Mayo, because escalation is both the sport and the sentence. The truth, which crept up on me like frost, was that nobody really won when a neighborhood turns into a battlefield. Janice's life was controlled and orderly, and I was the chaos agent. We'd been playing tug of war until one of us let go. That letting go happened slowly. The kids came back into the story. One Saturday, Janice's grandkids arrived and shouted at the fence, "Grandma, look, it's the skeleton!" Their eyes lit up. That light, pure, unself-conscious wonder cracked something in Janice. She called Bonesy art out loud. It was the truce signal. So we pivoted not to warfare, but to a strange, brilliant collaboration. We built a zipline sleigh between chimneys for the county Christmas contest. Janice, it turned out, was a lighting savant. I was an armorer of ridiculous props. We synced 20,000 lights, hoisted Bonesy in a flying sleigh, and suddenly our pettiness had turned into neighborhood spectacle. The same neighbors who'd griped over beige now cheered and handed out cookies. Gary, the HOA president, wrapped his face in the mist of Bonesy's ribs and declared it a community utility. Janice and I stood under synchronized lights, blinking like idiots who had learned a new language together. There are morals here, not preachy ones that waltz in wearing robes, but the small, painful realization that emerges when you spend 5 months antagonizing an old woman and discover you've both been starving for small human connection. My lesson came as exhaustion and a recipe. Suburban warfare is oddly intimate. You learn who waters their hydrangeas at dawn, who flings toilet paper in the night, who shows up with a welder when your plastic statue needs a spine. Pettiness consumes you until someone hands you a casserole and you both laugh at the absurdity of it all. Justice, or karma if you prefer the word with teeth, showed up in theatrical, satisfying form. Janice tried the long game, flying in a zoning inspector cousin to scare me into silence. I discovered it was a bluff, and with a little help from Bob, who, spoiler, liked Bonesy more than he let on. I lit the cold spark fountain on the 4th of July, turning a cease and desist into the most politely legal fireworks show the cul-de-sac had ever seen. Cousin Phil's rubbernecking ended with him scrambling into his sedan and driving off. The fire marshal came and complimented our wiring. The community applauded. Janice's plan to quietly litigate me into oblivion fizzled. Spectacle and communal joy had the last word. In the end, the yard that birthed a war became a bridge, literal and figurative. And Bonesy stood at the junction, patched and welded and absurd, a testament to how easy it is to cross from combat to coalition. The final irony, the thing that started as an eyesore became a local tradition, a backdrop for kids' photos, and a place where neighbors actually talked. We traded notes, not missiles. We built a flying sleigh together. We won a plaque and a ridiculous sense of civic pride. So here's the part that keeps me up sometimes. Is any of this actually noble, or did we just weaponize boredom until the whole cul-de-sac felt special for 5 months? Did Janice deserve eco-green dye in her gutter, or did I deserve the silent treatment? Who gets to decide where the line is between harmless mischief and harassment? Drop a comment. Was I the reasonable homeowner defending holiday windows, or the petty saboteur who made a lady's life miserable for sport? Tell me your neighbor war stories, your HOA victories, or the time you learned that a casserole can end a feud. And if you had to pick, would you rather fight with a skeleton or make peace with a casserole?
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video. Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.